Hey, true believers, how's it going? Matt Sardo, Monkeys Fighting Robots, and we have to talk about Absolute Batman #1 dropping today from DC Comics. Woo! I got my list is huge. So this book is written by Scott Snyder with art by Nick Dragotta, colors by Frank Martin, and letters by Clayton Cowles. I've been asking for this type of book for a very, very long time. I do think that the best way that you serve the superhero universe is by rebooting it every 10 years. Turtles has done it really well. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have done it really well and has just every generation has their version of the Turtles and they're just diehard fans now because of it. Ultimates came out in the Marvel universe and now you have Miles Morales and you have all those fans that came from there. Like there's so much stuff that's going on when you kind of do this kind of like reboot thing. First thing on my list is no baggage. I have no baggage with this book. I can just pick it up and be like, oh, look, it's a new Batman book. And I can read it and I can just have fun with it and just enjoy the ride. The second thing is all bets are off. All bets are off. Like this new Batman, Alfred could kill him off in the next issue and then Alfred could become Batman. Or Vicky Vale gets whacked immediately or Catwoman. Whoever it is, whoever you want to take off the board as quickly as possible you can. Or you can introduce different characters or anything you want to do. Like I go into this book and I have no clue what's going to happen. That's an amazing feeling as a reader to not have years and years and years and years of continuity and baggage and rules and things you can and things you can't do because of the character. And now that slate is wiped clean and you can just be off balance when you're reading. And that's a whole new feeling for comic book readers of superhero books because of all, like I said, the baggage and the rules at Marvel and DC to where you can and cannot use different characters or this person's rights are here and there or you can't kill off this character or you can't marry this character. So like that's an amazing feeling to just walk into a book fresh and just like, I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this and I can't analyze it at all because I have no clue what's going to happen. Another thing that's really interesting for me is when I was in my early teens, Tim Drake was introduced to the world. And so I aligned with him because it was my age group. And then as I got older, Nightwing was there for me. And then, Hal Jordan, we kind of aged, but there was never a point in time where I was like, oh, look, Batman. I always thought of Batman as being this older father figure kind of thing taken. And he was always, no matter how old I got, he was always older than me kind of thing. So this is a very interesting take with Batman in his early 20s and being that kind of younger Peter Parker-ish to kind of put that out there, because of, and I don't think I'm spoiling anything at this point in time, because I think if you're going to have anything spoiled, go to bleedingcool.com to have all that stuff spoiled for you. But it is already out there that Batman or Bruce Wayne is not rich in this. So he's kind of doing things on his own and with his own brain power and own ingenuity kind of thing. And so there's a lot of similarities between this Bruce Wayne and Peter Parker. To see a younger Batman walk into the world and kind of be that, it's almost like an angry Peter Parker because Batman still has the morals, the no guns thing, the no kill thing. So there is an alignment with Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And to have him be this younger kid is very interesting, and I'm excited to read the journey of this Bruce Wayne and see more of who he is and what he is. Because first impressions is just this angry Spider-Man, and it just kind of cracked me up. Haven't seen previews or haven't been on the internet. Batman's chest plate comes off and it's an axe. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. It's crazy. It's awesome for comic books. It's amazing, visual, this thing comes off and he's just chopping away. The axe kind of has this executioner type. They chopped people's heads off back in the day. And that was the Executioner. And, Marvel Comics had a guy called the Executioner with an axe. So the axe brings in this Executioner mindset, but that isn't what Batman is. So I'm interested to see, because he doesn't kill. So I'm interested to see what that represents. And so that's like a little in the back of my head kind of tidbit kind of thing where I'm like, okay, let's see how Scott Snyder like flushes this out. I understand it being like the bulletproof aspect of his shield, of his chest, and then it comes off for combat mode. Makes an amazing toy. If you're making toys, it's amazing. So I totally understand the toy aspect of it as well. One thing that like a little tidbit that's dropped in the book is the cape. As if you've seen in previews or seen with covers and everything like that, there's something going on with the cape. And, they hint at it in the book about where the origin of the cape. So I'm interested to see the cape kind of expand in other issues and the use of the cape, because that's very exciting. And again, that's another cool thing to draw into comic books. And it's another visual that gets you really excited. And it adds an element of everything being alive, the cape flowing and things moving and like it being alive, like it just jazzes you up. It's comic book making at its finest. So there's a lot of different story elements that Scott brings into it that I'm very excited to see kind of unfold. And again, this goes back to my knowledge of the book being none and walking in with like no expectations, just an exciting, fun comic book. And that's what I have. And I'm interested to see how Scott like expands on ideas, flushes out characters, who kind of becomes the main characters around Bruce Wayne, and how the world is kind of built up. Because we're just the first issue, you just get a little tidbit of everything, and you get really excited, and then you're like, okay, it's done. And now I'm like, okay, where's issue 2? Because there's an epilogue, and you're like, oh shit, oh my god. So art, I have lots of things, and I want to. DC didn't give me a lot of previews to show you guys, but let me see what I can pull up, and because I kind of want to walk through a few pages with you. I do like what Nick does in the flashbacks and what Frank does as well. There's nice like an Instagram filter over the flashback, so you kind of what is in the present, what is the past. There's a lot of very cinematic elements to the book, Absolute Batman #1. You have that big page with the gun, and I feel like this is going to be a huge storytelling element to it. You have the gun, and then you have the axe. And I was kind of like thinking like, okay, like is the axe like the symbolicness of like the divisive times that we're in right now? This is what's cool about having superheroes reboot like every 10 years, like I was kind of talking about, is you get to see how the world influences the creators of the comic books at the time. And when you like sit back 10 years from now and look back at Absolute Batman, and you're like, okay, what is the college scholars going to say about this issue, and what does it represent at the time in 2024, politically, socially, everything that's going on? Like, what are the influences that are pushing and pulling Scott Snyder to make certain decisions in his writing? And that's a huge philosophical conversation that I would love to entertain with all of you. So please comment after you read Absolute Batman #1 and talk to me about all that fun stuff. But you have the big gun, and then you have like the opening to the city, and you get this kind of exploration of the city. This is Alfred kind of entering Gotham for the first time. Sort of. Don't want to spoil it anyway. But what Nick does really well is when he has action going on, he kind of does these like close-ups, and there's a lot of movement going on in those tinier panels and close-up panels. And then you have this like drop of red crime wave, so you know that like things are bloody and brutal, and they're just like little tidbits that you see. And I love the flow of colors that are always going on in it. There's these like blues and oranges, reds, and you kind of have like this like sunset-ish tone that is always kind of like floating around in Gotham and floating around in the panels. It's interesting to see these like final panels because they're photorealistic and kind of like stagnant in place, like not moving very much at all. And that is not what happens in the rest of the book. The rest of the book is like insane action. Like I feel like Nick and Daniel Warren Johnson are like best friends because there is pages later on in this book where Bruce is training, and it starts off pretty mellow, but the sound effects kind of amp up through it. And as it amps up, there becomes this more anime style with like thick lines, and the theme that happens in this is just so Daniel Warren Johnson. And I've read enough Transformers and watched what he does, and other books that he's done, to where I'm like, is Beta Ray Bill and the wrestling book that everybody's gonna be like, Matt, I can't believe you forgot that. But like the style that Frank Martin uses, or no, Clayton Cowles uses in the lettering is awesome. It's brutal. It's big. A very Walt Simonson-esque, and like Daniel Warren Johnson. Like it's dirty. It's grungy. Has some anime to it. There's a lot of anime action going on in this style-wise because Batman is huge. But when he drops that big red theme on like that page, it is so, it's on. Like you just know it's on. And you know that this book is going to like be bonkers good, and the action's going to be very good. And I kind of jumped around in my notes. So let's get back on tracks. There's some big epic splash pages, where the cape kind of comes into it, where Jamie, there's a moon shot at the end of the book where Batman's flying through a moon. That's really good. Also, there's like a sunset Batman on top of a building. And we've seen this before, and it's very familiar. So you have Absolute Batman is supposed to be this new version of Batman, but they drop elements of familiarity in it, so you're not completely twisted on the universe or taken out of the universe. And Bruce is big. Bruce is super big. Like it's perplexing how big he is. So I'm interested to see how he stacks up against the villains of Gotham, because Batman does have this like huge rogue gallery that's famous, and they introduce them in a kind of interesting way, and I'm interested to see how it all like pans out. If that was the one like interesting aspect of it, I would say that like the Rogues Gallery has a very like CW feel to it in the writing style of that, or how they're introduced, where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not impressed, or I'm not like not impressed. I need to see it flushed out more before I kind of like add judgment. But that would be the one thing where I was like, the one little critique of the story where I'm like, oh, that's how they're introducing him. All right. But then again, that kind of has like a feel of like Ultimate. That's where another like feeling of Ultimate Spider-Man pops into my head. It's weird to have this like Spider-Man feel for a Batman book. But again, that's how I read. We all have baggage. We all have what inspires us, what kind of turns us on and turns us off. Like we have our things that we like and we dislike. And I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. To kind of like, I probably apply a Spider-Man lens to this book, and I see things that I would see because I'm a Spider-Man fan. So maybe someone who is I don't know, like Nightwing fan. I'm trying to think of parallels of that. Might see more Nightwing in this than Spider-Man. I'm trying to think of similar characters like Spider-Man that people might see, or because you could actually see, when that axe comes out, I was like, oh man, and how big he is, and the Daniel Warren Johnson action. And I only say that, I'm not saying that negatively to Nick. I'm just saying that that's what's on the top of my mind is Daniel Warren Johnson action from Transformers and what he did with that book, because that book blew me away. So this is more than a compliment. And I'm not saying, that Nick is copying him or they're copying each other. I'm just saying they have similar styles in this book of amazing action scenes. But I'm just trying to give you like a comparison so that you can go in here and buy this book with like a good sense of what you're getting. Does that make sense? Whew, I'm a little out of breath on this one. It's been a little while, guys. But I'm really excited to talk comic books with you guys. What else do I have on my what else do I have left on my list? There is an action scene later on in the book where it's tiny panels, it's up close, very Born Identity ish, but the background is like solid red, and it's more black and red, and it just gets you excited. That color, it just not jazzes you up, but like it gets it gets your blood pumping, and you realize the ferocity of the action that's going on because of that red background. And that was a really good color choice. And I think the small boxes with the uptight action makes it move quicker through the page as well. So you're kind of like bobbing up and down and getting punched with the book and dodging punches and dodging bullets. And that it gives it a good pacing, and it gives it a good flow. And, you're kind of tired after the fight because you've kind of been moving with it and stuff like that. Overall, Absolute Batman is a must buy, like total must buy. Like this is a moment in time right now where Scott Snyder and Nick and Frank and Clayton get to re-envision Batman and take Batman in really new, different, and exciting directions. And you don't get a lot of those moments in the world. So definitely go to your comic book shop, get the book, and then just enjoy it for what it is. It's something new. It's something exciting. I want to say it does push the envelope of what Batman can be, because I came away with it as an angry Spider-Man. And that's a good thing for me, because now I'm excited to see where it goes and how Bruce Wayne is flushed out in this universe, and all the other Rogue Gallery characters that kind of pop in the world. How are they reimagined? I also bring a certain amount of the Batman animated series from the early aughts to this as well, because that was probably the last time I was part of like a reimagining of Batman in the Rogue Galleries. So there are some like familiarities going on with this book that I read the book comfortably, and I was like, oh, this is Batman, but it's not Batman, and it's exciting, and I'm really excited to see where it goes, because it's weird to say that I was comfortable yet off balance, but that's where I was, and that's what's amazing about art. Once you read Absolute Batman, come back here, comment below, let me know what you thought of it, because I really think it was really good, and I would love to know what you guys thought of the book. Take care.